Welcome back to the AtomicPages PHP tutorial series. In this lesson, we're going to go over PHP variable types. So some important things to know before we start going over the different types of variables in PHP is that in PHP you don't have to declare variables. You can just start using a variable by assigning it. If you are used to different programming languages, that probably seems a little bit weird, but that is true. In fact, you don't have to declare your variables, and also variables don't have a specific type, so you can change the type of a variable at any time by just assigning it to a different variable type. So the first type of PHP variable that I want to go over is integers. Integers are whole numbers, both positive and negative. That's numbers without a decimal point in them. So these are two examples here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an integer. And then also this calculation here comes out to 0, which is also an integer. And these correspond to the C long type. If you've ever done any C programming before, this PHP variables are like the C long type, and in PHP the largest integer you can use is 2 to the 31st minus 1, which is that number there, and the smallest integer is negative 2 to the 31st minus 1, which is that number right there. Now another type of variable are doubles, and doubles are floating point numbers. That means numbers that have a decimal point. So 654.321, that is a double because of that decimal point there. And even numbers that are less than 1, like 0.4949, that is a double because of that decimal point there. And then even if you use something like 2.0, even though that rounds to an integer exactly, it's still a double because you put that decimal point there. So then another type of variable is a Boolean variable, which only has two possible values, true or false, and you can assign them like that. You just use the words true and false to assign variables like that. And then null is another interesting type of variable. It only has one possible value, and that value is null. And null pretty much is nothing, and it represents the lack of a value. So if you have nothing yet to put in a value, you can use null, like shown there. And then the last type of variable I'm going to go over right now are string variables. Strings are sequences of characters, like a sentence, like shown here, or they can even be really long paragraphs of text. Those are strings. And now there's two different types of strings, double quoted and single quoted, and they're a little bit different. And you can also have an empty string where you just put two quotes next to each other, and that will assign that variable to an empty string. So what's the difference between double and single quoted? We have an example here. We have an age variable which we set to 18, and then we set a string variable to Bob is blank years old. So there's two examples here. One of them we use a double quoted string, and one of them we use a single quoted string. And notice that age variable that we inserted in there with the string. Now with the double quoted string, it will interpret that age variable inside the string and print out Bob is 18 years old. But on this other version over here, it will use that age variable literally and say Bob is age years old. So single quoted strings are interpreted literally, and double quoted strings, the variables do get interpreted in them.